my grandfather, my father was the first Red Cross field director for the, and he was attached to the Marine Air Corps group, and he was in the South Pacific. And he was a great writer. He was a newspaper man. And so he loved to write letters. And he wrote this letter to my Uncle Edward. It is on Red Cross stationery. Dear Edward, and it was written March the 2nd, 1944. Received today 2 letters from you, one dated way back on January 22nd, and while I have a little time, here's a short note from the hot box of the Central Pacific. We saw plenty of action this time and have had the hell bombed and burned out of us. Biggest bombing was early on the morning of 12 February, a day I shall never forget. Lost practically all of my personal gear and also much of my supplies in the fire which followed the bombing. I was lucky though, because quite a few of the fellows lost everything, including their lives. For my money, the Nips are A1 bombardiers, or else they're lucky every time. I suppose you know where I'm at, and I can say I was indeed very happy to be in an invasion of the first Japanese territory to be taken. The Navy did a nifty job. They looked as though giant plows went to work on the islands, which are connected by a causeway. As late as 10 days ago, they were still finding Japanese alive, but very weak, in drains and in heaps of debris. For 2 weeks after we came ashore, they were burying them by the truckloads, so you can imagine how the place stank. I know of nothing more sickening than the sweet smell of death and burned flesh. Was glad to hear that little Janie is getting along so nicely, and I'm looking forward to the time when I can see her. No doubt she'll be walking by that time. Hope to be able to come home for Christmas, but I would gladly forego that pleasure for the privilege of being in on one of the biggest shows of them all, the attack on the Japanese mainland. Beer came on the island, and due to the shortage of actual cash among the men, I have financed the beer for all the men on the 2 islands for 1 week. Figure it out for yourself, the cash involved, at 10 cents a bottle, and a hell of a big bunch of men here. The beer financing deal isn't according to Hoyle and all regulations, but I can cover it up by listing the expenditure as an advance for post-exchange supplies purchased from ships at anchor in the lagoon. That was my dad.